Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Keepsy, aka Keeper of the Keys. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell and every time I upload you will be notified. Okay, so this is part 2 of this reading. So we had a Capricorn, a Libra, then we had a Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio masculine coming through who was all teaming up against this Cancer, Pisces or Scorpio female, and then we had a Sagittarius who was guilty for collaborating and for participating and taking part of this inheritance scam. It's an inheritance scam, an insurance fraud. So it's insurance. So he's getting insurance. So this Sagittarius is involved in insurance fraud, and they are guilty for their participation, and they are also guilty for either deleting evidence or burning evidence. So this could be someone who works in law enforcement. So we've got a Sagittarius, quite possibly from family as well, who work in law enforcement, and they've got some sort of power of attorney over this Cancer, Pisces or Scorpio female's inheritance. And they tried to do it a legal way, even though it's illegal what they've done. They tried to do it legally, okay? They tried to do it legally. Yeah. And what they did was they had a community of people with any sort of evidence, yeah? They all participated. They took some of the money each, okay? They split the money amongst themselves, and they started tampering with legal documentation. And anyone who realised this, or was not in their group who knew about this and found out about this, they tried to pay these people off. So there's been some sort of payoff or a payout, which is concerning, because they wanted to stop that coming to light. So they have, with this toil and labour, put a lot of work in behind the scenes to avoid prison, but they're going to prison, okay? So tampering with evidence, falsifying evidence, legal documentation, quite possibly power of attorney, occupation. Oh, no way. Then the death card. So quite possibly this Sagittarius knew someone who worked in a morgue, okay? So, and then with this imprisonment, quite possibly this Sagittarius worked in a prison, okay? And they knew somebody who worked in a morgue or in some sort of a church. They knew somebody who worked in a morgue, and they wanted this money for themselves. So it is an insurance job, and they have literally tried to end a Cancer, Pisces or Scorpio female. And then when she speaks out with this mature woman in reverse, label her as immature, mentally immature, label her as mentally retarded, label her as insane, label her as incompetent, because they're still planning this insurance fraud. So quite possibly someone who works in law, that could be a police officer, it could be a lawyer, judge, solicitor, attorney, who's got linking to somebody who works in a morgue. And this is a pattern. This is how a lot of these people who's done this have come out of poverty. This is how they have come out of poverty, and this is how they've been living a life of luxury for many years. Many years. Yeah. And what I was getting with this journey and this distant horizons, they actually got somebody from law enforcement from overseas to help them, and quite possibly with this evidence, burning of evidence and tampering with evidence, they've left evidence, police evidence, like legal documentation. They've put that inside of trains. Do you know train stations, like for the train station, what's like near me, there is like a set of toilets, like cubicles, for anyone who wants to obviously go to the toilet before they get on the train, right? They've gone into the toilets of these like train stations, and in the bins, in the toilets, they've scattered evidence in the cubicles, okay? So in the cubicles, in toilets, at train station, they've scattered evidence, and quite possibly with some of this money, what they have took, because they have took some money and they are planning to take more, and they're planning to keep doing the same thing because they're forming a pattern. Someone's bought a boat. So someone's bought a boat. So quite possibly there could be some evidence on a boat where one of them's gone out, or a few of them's gone out on this boat in the middle of the ocean and then dumped a lot of this legal documentation in the middle of the sea, okay? And then they have put some stuff in the cubicle toilets, you know, in the female section also, so there is masculines and feminines involved. In the bin where you put your sanitary towels and you wrap them up and you put them inside of that bin, there's put evidence inside of a sanitary towel bin, and they've stuffed some paper evidence in there because they know, or they think, that no one's ever going to check that place. No one's ever going to check it, because why is anyone going to want to go out and like check that, because it stinks. So the average person is not going to think about looking in to these train station cubicle toilets, but there is evidence in the toilets. Okay, so they could have tried to flush some of the evidence. They could have tried to put some in the sanitary towel bin, is what I was getting, in the sanitary towel bin. There's masculines and feminines, so there'll be stuff in like the masculine bins, in the feminine bin, okay? And then again, someone has used some of this money, what they took, to buy a boat, and quite possibly some of this legal documentation is in a binder, in a folder, in a black folder on a boat, okay? So there is a black folder on a boat or a ship linking to this family. Now, it does not have to be family by blood. It could be a family friend who's also got involved, because they brought a lot of people in this because it was a massive major payout, okay? And they all wanted to take a cut of that money. They all wanted to take a cut of that money. Vouchers. They all wanted to take a piece of that pie. They actually thought, with this despair in reverse and not hiring, that they wouldn't have to work, okay? So they don't want to go out and earn a decent living and a life of luxury from their hard work. The only hard work they do is robbery and theft, and it's a family of them, with this family room and high on it in reverse, a family of them who hold no ranking in spirits, and although quite possibly if they're in law enforcement, they could have held some sort of high status, you know, whatever, like, because I ain't got a clue about, like, this ranky type of things, you know. There's the PCs, and there's, like, the investigators, like, the detectives, lieutenant, whoever, I don't know. I don't know the right thing, but basically, they got quite high up in some sort of physical ranking, but they're not high on her, so they just wanted to get into this sort of leader power position just to abuse their power. And I is getting that this Sagittarius has always had linkings to someone who works at a morgue, okay? And it was a planned death, like they planned the funeral, the lot, just to cover up this theft and to avoid adjudication, to avoid judgment, to avoid it going to court. We've got a mature man in reverse, so this is the Sagittarius. So this Sagittarius, in some way, shape or form, is linking to this Capricorn. Again, it might not be directly through blood, but from other family members. Okay, and he is the one who was changing legal documentation. We've got official person in reverse. It wasn't official, okay? This documentation was not to be tampered with, but he tampered with it anyways because he was in this leadership type of position. He could quite possibly be losing his job. loss of job, loss of that physical ranking, loss of work, because obviously linking to this theft, and there's a morgue going under investigation because this morgue has been just burying people, knowing that it wasn't no natural causes, but they can make it appear to be natural causes because there's this chemical what they can give people where it don't show up in the bloodstream. I can't remember what it's called, but I think they've been like doing chemically poisoning people, some sort of like radiation or something like that, some sort of chemical poisoning. They either inject it or they put it in the food or they put that in the water, the drinks. That person passes away. They go to the morgue. The people, they don't ask any questions. They just do their part of the job, which is burying. But this Sagittarius masculine, who used to work in law, or he could still be working in law and about to lose his job, has done this previous to another family member. Has done this previous to a family member because he was very money power hungry as well. So it's a very money power hungry family, a family who is money driven, but it's not always a bad thing to be like money driven. But in this instance, in this case, it is because it's all about money and power and status and ego. Money, power, status, ego. The more money they get, the more power they have, and the more they hold in their like law enforcement type of thing. But this morgue ain't good at all. Like a lot of dodgy people go to this morgue, like your living room. They'll be like, can you come meet with me, you know? But they had a meeting and they arranged this Cancer Pisces or Scorpio female's funeral before she'd even passed away, which is bizarre. Why would you arrange someone's funeral when they're all fighting fit and healthy? So if this Cancer Pisces or Scorpio female was ill, it was due to some sort of black magic, energy manipulation and poisoning. Because with this change in reverse, they didn't want to see her go through any sort of changes. And with this meetings, they didn't want her to be able to meet up with anybody to get any sort of help. We've got bereavement. They was meeting up to discuss a bereavement before it had even happened. Yeah, so they was like literally wanting this morgue to have some sort of space for a dead body. And then we've got military person in reverse and marriage in reverse. So an ex-military person who's divorced is also involved. So this could be any of the star signs. There's an ex-military person who's involved. Wow. Sad news in reverse. They met up and they spoke about this sad news that this Cancer Pisces or Scorpio was either passed or they could actually have declared this Cancer Pisces or Scorpio female as dead already so they can claim the insurance. Just can't make it up. So they can claim the insurance, and this Sagittarius masculine wants to make out like he's a rich, good gentleman and he'd never do anything of the sort, but is involved in a lot of robbery, theft. If any of his family members are involved in robbery, theft, armed robbery, anything like that, because he works in law enforcement, he'll just brush it under the table and get rid of evidence. And what these people have done, this family has done, is enough to make anyone ill. And they've deliberately tried to make this Cancer Pisces or Scorpio ill through all this worry, this stress, this heartbreak, because they wanted to gain a lot of money. So they went to court, yeah, and they could have labelled this Cancer Pisces or Scorpio as incompetent after all the bad things what they've done, after planning a funeral before it's even happened and meeting up and discussing it in their family room or in this morgue, mortuary, whatever it's called, in their like guest bit. Yeah, so they're all going to prison. They steal, especially this ex-military person, steals people's happiness. They're a happiness hater, and on this long way, good gentleman, someone who's linking to this Sagittarius has made out like they was a good person and they'd never do anything of the sort. They could have already been interviewed by the police, and because of the linkings and the connections, someone working in law, it's all been hush-hush, swept under the rug. And they did this to a feminine who was actually a good lady and rich girl, because they didn't want to see her become rich or powerful or have any sort of power, because they know that she's already powerful enough as it is, and then with that money they didn't want her to appear above them in physical ranking. Yeah, court person.